Hey, it's Don Skaggs with Empowered Inventing, the one place where we try to help you not only with the nuts and bolts part of the inventing entrepreneur process, but also the behavior parts. Because if you get the behavior parts right, the nuts and bolts stuff a lot of times can just fall into place. So anyway, what I want to talk to you about today is I want to talk to you about 5 important things that you should take to a trade show or a conference. And no matter what idea you've come up with, every idea, every product, every market has its own trade show, has its own conference. And in my business, US Biotechs, we had something called the Institute for Histology, Histotechnology, and it was called the NSH, National Histotechnology Society annual meeting. And it was a meeting where we all went, and all they did was histology stuff, histology, cytology, which is pathology. And I know that's boring. Most people won't even understand what that is, but it was a pathology part of the medical laboratory, and that was our conference. That was our niche. That was our business. And no matter what you have, whether it's hardware, whether it's a medical device, whether it's something in between, you have a conference. There is a trade show somewhere out there for what it is that you make in your market that you want to go in. So let's say you identify that market, and then you identify that trade show or that conference, and you want to go there. So the first thing you need to ask yourself is, should I be an attendee or should I get a booth? And that's an important question because booths can be really expensive. And even travel, if you're an attendee, can be somewhat expensive. And what I like to suggest to do, unless you are ready with product to go to market and it is one of those trade shows where you can actually sell product at your booth, for the first time, don't go and get a booth first time. No, don't do that. Go as an attendee. You want to go there and be a fly on the wall. And you want to listen. And you want to learn, especially if you're not familiar with this market yet. You want to go there and just find out everything you can about it. And by the way, the cheapest way to do this is find a website. Find a website that has the trade show. Every trade show, by the way, has their own website. They have a nice exhibitor list you can draw from. You can find out who the competitors are, who maybe the good potential distributors are. So that's a really, really good way to find out about that, to learn about that. So get on the website and you can glean all kinds of information from a trade show's website. That's step one. You want to do that. Then if it's the next trade show for that organization is not that far away from you and you have the ability to travel there, then maybe you want to travel and be an attendee. And maybe the cost would be so much lower if you're an attendee over having a booth. Booths can cost thousands of dollars and end up giving you nothing if you're not careful about it. So, and we're going to talk about that. But decide whether you want to have a booth or you want to be an attendee. And again, I kind of side on the attendee until you really, really know and you're really ready to really spend the money on a booth. And you have a good reason to spend the money on a booth. Because a lot of times you can make just as many contacts as an attendee as you can with having a booth. So if it's the type of conference like the ones that I used to go to, the medical conferences, you didn't sell stuff at the booth. They weren't swiping credit cards at the booth. Now there are trade shows. I was just talking to an inventor entrepreneur last week. All the trade shows he goes to, that's where he actually sells products. They're swiping credit cards at his booth and they're shipping stuff, or he's brought product and they just take it off with them. And that's a great way. And if that's the type of trade show you found where you can sell product, then it might be worth it if you have product made and you're ready to go in that direction. So that might be a good way to go. If it is not, if it is the other kind where you're not selling products, you're not swiping cards at the booth, then you're going to really want to understand that you're not closing the deal at the show. People are not going to buy at those types of shows. They don't. It's all show and tell. So they're just saying, oh, what's new, what's new, what's new? You're making first contact with these people, usually. Or if you've already made first contact with some of these potential customers, then you're reinforcing that contact. So that's the purpose of those types of shows. So either way, whether you're going as a booth, have a booth, or you're just going to be an attendee, you're still making these contacts. But you want to be prepared. And these are the next two things I want to say. There's two ways you need to prepare. One thing, you need to prepare your product or your business. In other words, you need to have, if it's an invention, if it's an idea, if you've got IP, intellectual property on it, then you want to have protection in place. And again, you can do this cheaply. Don't go out and spend $10,000 on a patent that you don't know is going to make money yet. So be sure and have the right strategy. And we do videos, and we actually teach a class on this, on having the right IP strategy. And so you want to have the right IP strategy. You want to do it cheaply. Put you a provisional patent in place. Get you a cheap patent search done, and or a reasonable one. I shouldn't say cheap. They're not cheap, but they're an inexpensive but effective one. And again, there's ones you can find out there. So anyway, get a provisional patent in place. Stamp patent pending on everything. It's your scary but word dog sign, and get ready to go out there. And also, you've already done your prototype. This means also that you've already done your Frankentype. So you've tested it and proved to yourself that it works, and it works really, really well. And it can be made out of parts that you can source. And also, you have a demo type. And so you've moved on from the Frankentype to the demo type, and the demo type is the one that's pretty, that you can present. And maybe you just have a few, but you can present it. And you have that presentation just all down pat, that demo type. And you are like a segment on QVC showing this product. So you have all those things in place. You have that preparation in place before you even go to a show. The second thing you need to prepare for is your optics. Have a business card. Don't just say, oh yeah, I'm Joe Blow here, let me write my phone number down. They're not going to keep that. That's not going to be impressive enough for them to even remember, likely. And be sure and get their business cards too, by the way. But have a business card, and on that business card you need to have a real email address. I'm not talking about, joeblow@gmail.com. Don't do that. Have a real domain. By the way, that's the second thing. Have a website with your domain. So, because a lot of times while you're talking to somebody, they'll be in this day and age, in the 21st century, they're looking you up on their phone. And they're pulling you up to see whether you're real or whether they can kind of scratch and see if you're just veneer and not really anything else underneath. So they're checking you out, usually while they're talking to you or right after they talk to you. So you need to have a website in place. It can be just a simple website, but have something in place when you're going to a trade show that has some type of optics where they can find you, they can see you, and you look good. And then have an email attached to that. So if you've got ABC Company, and then it's johnsmith@abccompany.com. That makes you look professional. If it's Gmail, they're going to think you're two guys, a dog in a garage. So don't do that. Third thing with optics, have a demo video. Doesn't have to be elaborate, doesn't have to be, again, don't spend $10,000 on a video. It can be very, very simple, but it does need to be good. It does need to just relay the product. Again, have that really, really nice demonstration, all practiced, all slick, all ready to go, and make a video of that. Put that on the website, put that on YouTube, have a link to that on the business card. You've got all your optics covered. So once you have those things prepared and in place, another thing you have to have ready is your pitch. Have an elevator pitch. So in other words, if you had to tell your story of your entire product in the time an elevator door shut to the time it opened back up, you could tell that. Have an escalator pitch, and even faster, shorter, something that gets that idea across. And if they're asking you what it is, they're asking you what time it is, don't try to tell them how to build a clock. Don't get over-engineered, don't blind them with science. Just keep it very concise, so they can get it in 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and then have some Q&A ready. Have some questions that you think that they would probably ask, and have good stock answers ready, at the ready, in your mind, in your memory, so you can answer those questions immediately when they ask them. And lastly, follow-up, especially with these conferences and these meetings where, again, they're not buying stuff at the booth, they're not swiping cards. Get ready to prepare for the follow-up, because that is where the real money of these trade shows and conferences are made. It's the follow-up from the show. If you don't follow up with all these people, all these cards, all these contacts that you get after the show, it just becomes a bag that sits in the corner of your office. You might as well have not even gone. You've flushed all that money, because if you don't follow up, nothing's going to happen. They're going to forget about you. It's all going to fade away. So be sure and follow up. Follow up is paramount important. Of paramount importance to inventors and entrepreneurs going to a trade show or a conference. So anyway, I hope these things were helpful for you. As I heard Stephen Key say one time, he said, take lots of Advil because your feet are going to hurt. And wear comfortable shoes too. So I think he said that too. So those are really, really great tips, by the way. Anyway, I'm Don Skaggs. This is Empowered Inventing. Check out our website, empoweredinventing.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure and subscribe. Like us, subscribe, all those good things on social media. And I will look to see you at the next meeting, workshop, maybe one of our online classes, or on the next video.